Here, and today we're doing your Know Your Platform. We're going to be focusing on the standard online share trading, dividends results, corporate actions, delistings, name changes, and the like. It's one of the menu items on the Standard Bank website under Tools, under Company Info. You find all that there. And telling you what results are upcoming and what have just happened, dividends to be paid and recently paid, corporate actions for the week ahead, delisted shares, name changes, holding changes, directors' dealings, etc. So it's quite chunky. Events calendar updated weekly, and I've downloaded it. It basically kicks you out a Excel spreadsheet, which comes up every week, and you can download. And this is for 30 June to 28 July, but then gets updated every week. So it covers a month, but being constantly updated. And mostly what you're going to find on here, obviously, is dividend payments. Dividends that are coming up, last day to trade, the ex-date, pay date, all of that sort of thing. You will also get, for example, the Grit Real Estate is doing a tender offer, which is closing 21 July, which current shareholders can take part in. It would include, for example, the unbundlings that we saw just recently from the RMH, etc., unbundling the first round. So that would have been included in here as well. Question coming through is this for your portfolio? No, this is for everything. This is for the JSE as a whole. And it's going to be events that have been notified to the market. And that's an important point. In other words, it is a case of corporate actions that we know are coming. And that's critically important. Some of them, for example, with the storage, which you can see there, line 17, they are paying a dividend with an option of receiving shares in lieu of the dividend. At this point, they haven't yet announced what that ratio will be. Last day to trade is Tuesday, 7 July. At the moment, it's an elective event. You're being asked to vote on it or to request shares or cash. These sort of events will always have a default. The default is usually, I think, script, but you will be asked what you want with your shares, or you can go pro rata if you like. Sirius, for example, has notified and said that it will be one share for every 48.4807 that you currently hold. That will obviously come in time from storage as well. They will make that announcement. They need to determine what the price is that they're getting, what the price of the shares will be when they pay what is effectively a 50-cent dividend. So that comes out. There's the screen I want to go to. So that is the corporate actions diary, and it's a fairly large list. And as I said, you can go back in time. They're all there. How far back's it going? It's going back. Okay, it's going back forever and a day. And you simply just open it, save it to your computer, and then it's updated every Tuesday. It'll pop up. Obviously, sometimes Tuesdays are public holidays. They then typically move it forward. Yep, 15 June, the 16th of June was a public holiday, so they shifted it a day forward. So sticking with the others, dividends payable. So these are dividends that have been announced but not yet paid, and it gives you a search by ODT. Now you will note there's usually, so this is, there were some dividends from yesterday. This hasn't flushed out overnight, but there were a couple of shares there, Liberty, Signia, Yebuyetu, and Invicta Holding prefs, including the A2X prefs, that were, the dividends have been announced, and last day to trade was yesterday, Tuesday, 30 June. Pay date will now be 6 July. But you'll then also see all the other dividends that are coming up and that have been announced. And some of them, if we scroll down, now for some reason, Home Choice is still sitting there. In fact, a couple of them are sitting which are passed but haven't been flushed out of the system. But you notice some oddities here. There we go. I mean, Libstar as well. And what we see here is that dividends, British American Tobacco, back in February, basically announced the quarterly dividends for the entire year. They said, this is what we're going to pay for the rest of the period. So though it was announced 27 Feb, we've got a pay date. And in fact, there should be another one for British American Tobacco. Nope, maybe my bad. But they announced 27 Feb. One of them is 29 April is the last day to trade, and the other one is 14 December. They give you the the pound sterling amount. They will give a conversion ratio nearer the time, and those pay dates are also way after. So, for example, 29 September is LDT, but pay date will be 12 November. Spur did the same. 27 Feb announced a dividend which will be LDT 29 September and pay date 5 October. So you're going to see some what look a little weird, but some companies do that. Most of them obviously are going to be, your July LDT. So a bit quiet now because we have sort of moved through reporting season, but there are still a couple coming through. There's the other British American Tobacco up there with a 7 July pay date. Sorry, LDT, and then a 19 August. I mean, truthfully, there was once a stock on the JSE who paid quarterly, but actually wanted to do monthly dividends. They didn't in the end, and I think it was just, frankly, too much admin for them. But it is a case of being announced. We know it's coming. It will be listed on that particular page, which is dividends payable. And then, of course, dividends paid. These are for the last 60 days, and these are dividends that have already been paid out. We get the clear date. This is now alphabetical by the company name. But if you're like, hang on, didn't I have that stock? Shouldn't I be having that dividend? Well, gives you declare, gives you ODT, gives you the pay date, the amount, etc., and the currency. If you see there's a GBP one there, Atlantic Leaf Properties, they pay in GBP, small p. Very important. The small p, the C after the ZAR, etc., means that is cents, or in the case of GBP, it is pence. That is not £4.65, or in the case of the one just above 30 Rand, it is 30 cents. What they will do is at some point, obviously, they then also give you the currency conversion ratio. So 4.65 pence times 22 pounds and some change at the exchange rate, because you will get paid in ZAR. And then sometimes, as is the example down here, Capital and Regional, they gave you a script option, and they'll tell you how many shares you received per 100 that you were holding. Dave, could a company that announced an annual dividend pre-COVID change their decision and pass on paying a dividend? Dave, that's a great question. And honestly, the answer is I don't. My sense is no. I mean, well, I suppose it depends where they're on the stage. Understand how a dividend works. I mean, a dividend gets announced by the board in the set of results, and then ultimately paid out. I suppose a company could rescind on a dividend they had already announced. I have never heard of it, not in the South African context. I know there was a Nigerian company that did it once. They promised a dividend, they never paid it, and I knew someone who happened to be a shareholder, and they phoned and complained, and the answer was, they phoned the Nigerian Stock Exchange, etc., and they just never got it. My understanding is you've announced a dividend, now you pay it, and certainly you've made provision for it. What we're seeing, of course, which is not to your question, but what we're seeing is a lot of companies simply just saying, sorry guys, we're not paying a dividend. In other words, they're announcing no dividend. My sense is once it's announced, it's now a real deal. And if it wasn't paid, it would be first time to my knowledge. The events calendar just tells you what's upcoming. I'd struggle with this page. I'm running the Brave browser, and I'm having some troubles with the Brave browser in some of the pages. Oddly enough, I was looking at this morning. So I'm going to come back to that one. There's another page I have an issue. Find by company, we've touched on this one before. You know a stock you're interested in, for example, the let's say the redefined REIT, the RDI REIT, but what is its code? There it is, RPL. The RDI REIT, because I always, for the RDI REIT, I always type in RDI, which is of course Rockwell Diamonds, which is suspended, and so I get nothing, and then I wonder what the heck has happened. And I'm finally starting to learn that the RDI, that's the UK PLC, as opposed to Redefine, which is RDF. And that just helps you if you're looking for a particular company. If you're looking for a company within a sector, the trick is that our sectors are not very intuitive all the time. I mean, oil and gas producers, yeah, okay, but like no sassle, which to me, and I get how that works and why the JSE and their classification, but I'm always like, oil and gas, like where's sassle? Like, yeah, oil and gas is their business. but they somehow never pop up in there. So it's there, but I don't find it massively intuitive. Company results. These are results that are published in the last 30 days. We're missing yesterday's results. The system hasn't flushed through. It might actually be cache with my Brave browser. I love it, but it's handling of cache. And I suspect it's because they're big on privacy, but the handling on cache becomes a painful experience occasionally. So it just tells you results that have come through in the last 30 days, what the earnings per share was, what the previous earnings per share, and then obviously the change for that as well. Useful, I suppose, particularly if you just want to sort of dig around, like, what's happened, who's come through, etc. Let's go and have a quick look-see. And also important, this is earnings per share, not headline earnings per share. The key distinction is that headline earnings per share excludes the one-off events, etc. So typically I use that. Dave, if a company entered liquidation between announcing a dividend and paying it, shareholders would be back of the queue. That's a good point. And directors would be in trouble, because one of the key points around business rescue in South Africa is, as soon as that you think, and it's part of the Companies Act, as soon as you think a business is going to be having liquidity constraints, you have to give thought to business rescue. And so basically you paid out a dividend, and then in the weeks or maybe a month or two's time you hit liquidity constraints, you better have had a very good story. But yeah, company into bankruptcy or business rescue, liquidation, shareholders are right at the back of the queue. They stand absolutely lost in the queue. Question from Zela: what happens if I click the company? It takes you to this page here, which is moderately useful. It's not, and I'll show you why I say it's only moderately useful. So this page, and we've touched on it before, tells you a ton about the company, who their shareholders are, who the company secretary to contact is, etc., etc. You've got all of their financials, results. You will note that for September is due 27 November, unconfirmed by the company at this point. And you can drop it into your calendar, but it is not a Google Calendar happy. All the financials over there, ratio analysis. So this is very much a page which a lot links off. And if we go to the Mr. Price page, this is the quote page, which has got a lot more information. But this information that we're looking at here on the quote page is very much more your price information and some ratios, PEs, dividend yields, etc. But this is, price, and then all the links out. And that page we were just looking at is what we call the company profile page. And then that gives us a fair bit of information there at the same time. So that was company results. And then company results due, again, hasn't flushed through for the Monday, Tuesday. I quite like this page, for bunches of reasons. And it gives you, it's going all the way down to September. Now, in many cases, this data was provided by ShareNet, and this is their expectation. And some companies have very defined period. They release on this date, like the second Tuesday in March or something like that, and it's easy. Others are moving targets, and I want to see. So Crooks Brothers aren't even on here. So Crooks Brothers were initially scheduled for 12 June, and then they moved it to 30 June. And then yesterday they moved it again. So at this, at this point, it's probably still on the page for 12 June. So it's not, when dates change like that, it's then not often updated. So it does sometimes sort of lag and start to fall behind in the process. I think Gaia also announced yesterday that they are delaying their results. Adcock did come out, Barlow came out. But broadly correct, but not always 100% correct. And sometimes it is just moving targets, particularly now during COVID, where the JSE, well, actually the FSCA and hence the JSE, has given extensions for publishing of company results. It used to be 3 months, and the JSE gave you an extra 1 month. You've now got 6 months to publish those company results. So that's the story with both Crooks and with Gaia and many others, who's simply saying, look, lockdown has made our results difficult to get together, and we can debate the legitimacy of that, but that's certainly what they're talking about. One I quite like is directors' dealings. So this is just in the last month. And this is just all the directors' dealings that have come across the JSE. And I like what I like with it. You know, it's sorted by date and then by company name and director. You can quickly run your eye down and see what's been happening. Okay, data tech folks were buying. But look, zero price. I'm going to come to that in a second. So you get a sense of, you know, what's been happening. A lot there from Mr. Price, a lot there from Oasis, and in many cases, we're actually going to have to go and jump in to go and find the details around. And what I mean by that, and let's look at this one here, Long for Life. Bought 274,000 and value zero. Okay, how did they buy them for zero? Their options. They were basically awarded to the director, and if you want the details of who exactly and terms, etc., you'd have to go to the Long to Life page and find that information there. Some of them, for example, the Goldfields was selling, and sometimes you'll find disconnects on the sell price, and I'll show you what I mean by that on the discovery page. With Adrian Gore, there it is there. So this is back in May of last year, and you'll see that he, according to this, bought shares at 106 Rand and sold shares at 248 Rand. That's not quite true. What he actually did was he did a zero cost collar. And the zero cost collar was put options at 106 Rand, which he bought, and then he sold call options at 248 Rand. So in other words, the share price below 106.42, he didn't lose money, and the share price above 248.31, he didn't make money. So when you see oddities like that, and you think, yowza, you wouldn't have mind selling some Discovery shares in May last year for 248 Rand, simply go find the cents. 30 May, so news, 30 of May last year, oops, too far down. And I know why it's not here. This gets messy because it's under, what is the Discovery Preference Share? I bet you it's under the Discovery Preference Share rather than DSBP. So oftentimes, I mean, we're practically just doing hacks here. And for me, it's easy because I've learned these hacks. Some of you are like, what the heck is happening here? Is it that one there? Was it 31 May? Yep, here it is. So here's the details. Now, firstly, we saw an oddity on the director's dealings, and you were like, what the heck happened here? And then it wasn't just that simple. We practically had to go into the ultimately the preference share to find it, because they published this under the code. The last symbol, DSBP, and that's then the symbol that it gets searched on. They should, and all practicality, they should make that last symbol DSY, because that's the code we're going to look for. But this then gives us the details of those options that he did, that we saw, that were looking very, very weird and which didn't make any sense. So it takes some diggings. From published company results, where can I find their debt situation? William, great question. I'm going to come back to that at the end, if you don't mind. A couple more minutes here, then I'll show you where you can find the debt situation. So that was company directors, changes there. Changes to holdings. So this is a fun page. Companies announcing the purchase of particular shares. Now, there's rules that typically, if you cross 5% and then every 5% thereafter. But in many cases, you will see, particularly here, for example, DRD, they're notifying for what are in many cases quite small. Although we do see there's the 24 June, Sibanye Stillwater. So what we've got here is just saying, well, hey, what's happening? So for example, cash build 91, which is the Investec Asset Management, has gone from 6.39 to 5.24, which is a 17% drop. You can see other moves here. For example, Imara Properties, Sefekele Capital, gone to 5.7. So 100% increase. Now, they could have been at 4.99, crossed the 5% threshold, and then they have to, as per the Company Act. We can't be sure about that. You also see an EOH, a whole bunch happening here in EOH in June in terms of changes. Some of them dropping down, some of them picking up, another one dropping down. The government PRC taking their stake slightly lower. What I would be looking for here is significant trends. A lot of this around Investec will obviously be with the 91 unbundling. Some of the stocks, MC Mining, are just not on my radar, so I'm not particularly interested in. Subvest, so Truffle. That's interesting. Truffle's Jonathan Fisher, fairly smart. No, sorry, that was Truffle on RECM. Has picked up a position in there. Subvest, okay, Ellereens Trust, and then the SFT. That might also be there. No, that's not the unbundling. That's curious. You'd have to, again, 13 May. Not sure what happened there. You'd have to go and do some more digging to get those details on it. RECM, you then, okay, so Coronation upped, and then do we see, what we could do is go and see, do we see changes to that? Have they now dropped that for the period? Short answer, we'd have to go dig or wait and see. The other two on here, and I'm going to try this. These pages aren't loading for some reason on my Brave browser. Nope, page not loading. So let me log off there, and I have myself Chrome. They do load, oddly enough, on Chrome. The first is delisted shares. I get the question all the time. Yeah, you know, if someone passed away and you found a share certificate, what's it worth? The honest answer is usually it's worth absolutely nothing. But, you know, it's worth having a look-see to see if there is. There's 282 entries here. It gives you date of delisting, and it tells you, you know, who they are, etc., and the investment type that it was. Now, you know, importantly here, how many can I show? I can show 100. It's not telling you the details around the delisting or where they went to. For example, group 5 is bankruptcy. ESAW is, I think, same. African Phoenix is basically paid out. Subvest delisted in the merger. They merged the Subvest ends versus the Subvest ordinaries. Rolf's gone. Transex also gone. Some of them, you know, Clover taken over and delisted at price, etc. So some of them, there's stories behind it. Mondi taken over by Sibanye Stillwater. Gold Brands, yeah, they were never you know, of anything of note anyway. So there's, you know, the reasons, but it's, you know, those folks who suddenly haul out to something and it's like, hey, I found these, are they worth anything? Typically, they're not worth anything at all. Short answer is no. And then the other one is name changes, which is also going to be useful, particularly so you've got an old share somewhere and you're wondering what the heck's happened to it. Sometimes it's just changed the name. You know, so old name, new name. So Brainworks becomes Arden Capital. I didn't even know Brainworks as a company. You know, Sacor Holdings became Ephora. Coal of Africa became MC Mining. I always forget that. I see MC Mining and I have no idea where it comes from. It was old Coal of Africa. Some of them, BHP Billiton became BHP Group. Okay, someone got paid a lot of money to change Billiton into Group, but whatever the case may be. So this is where you're just going to gain. You just like, there's a stock you used to care about and now suddenly it's disappeared. And if you can't, you know that you had Delta, well, now you know there's Delta and what's happened to it. Mira Delta Property became Grit Real Estate, etc., etc. So you can go and find those companies that have sort of disappeared off your radars. Let me log out here and let me log back into there. Now I've got too many copies of Viewpoint open. William, your question from published company results, where can I find their debt situation? So truthfully, it depends on the company. You know, and how much detail are they going to give on the debt scenario? And certainly in your listed property, they usually give a bit. You will find some debt, and let's, what stock shall we look for? Let's see if Redefine gives it to us in, so under company profile, ratio analysis, we have a snapshot of no, this is just the ratios that are coming through. Sorry, I wanted financials. And here we will have a snapshot of the balance sheet and the like. Are we going to find some debt here? We will find the debt, but we're not going to get much detail around that debt. So it pops up in the results because obviously it's part of there's your interest-bearing loans, below that other long-term liabilities, total long-term liabilities, etc. So it gives you some information, but not truthfully a giant amount in that sense. When you're really looking to what I think your question might be, is sort of debt profile, like when is the debt due, what are the rates, etc. Some companies will put it in their year end, even fewer will put it in their interim results. You're going to have to go find it in their annual report and full gloss these, and there you will find the annual reports for the different companies. So those are annual reports for August 2019. This is redefined. The year end is August. So the interims are out for Feb. We will get more details when we get the year end in August. Whenever that will come through, those results will be published, and then the annual report will come a little way after that. So, and at that point, they're going to give us really solid detail. They're going to tell us who they owe the money to. They're going to give us a payment profile. In other words, when is debt expiring? Because you know what? If you've got $1 billion of debt and it expires next month, well, you might be in trouble. If you've got a 10 billion of debt, but it expires in 2030, well, hey, you've got 10 years. So that profile matters. The rate matters. Is it a fixed or a floating? You know, if you were in a fixed rate, particularly in South African debt, if you were fixed, you're probably overpaying. If you were floating, linked to Prime or maybe to JIBAR, the Joburg Interbank Overnight Rate, well, then you're probably smiling because those rates have come down. So unfortunately, William, it's available, but it's often fairly historic information. I'm going to give you a last point where you can go and find selects again to redefine. I'm just picking redefine randomly. I had no particular reason. Go to the redefine website, and what you will find, and I remember the days when there was actually very, very little happening here. They've got their debt program. Now, this is partly because they are their property stock and debt is very, very important. You've also got the financial results. You've got announcements and webcasts. So, oftentimes this was their pre-close for the half year of February. They've done any webcasts recently, interim results, and often what you find is they will talk around their debt to some degree in presentations and results and the like. And the point I was making, I remember back in the sort of 2005s, 2010s, when company websites were, I suppose most of them had them, but they were terrible things in terms of what and where and how, etc. And now, of course, they're the real McCoy, and they've got proper information. So, short answer, William, annual reports, but they're old. Check the latest set of results, interim or final, and see what they've got there. And then, of course, don't forget also to go and actually look at the company result. And just a last point on the results, which is probably obvious, but just in case, what am I looking for? Was that results 8 June? No, that's a cautionary announcement. Yeah, I hate these, man. Availability of investor presentation, and that is the results presentation. We just found the thing there, and here are the results. So again, the codes, they are messy, but at least they put RDF last, so it pops into RDF. Just that those codes take up a ton of space, so we can't see the full line. Down towards the bottom, you will find this is what they call a short form announcement, and in this case, it tells us truthfully very little. Some highlights, but really it tells us very, very little. But down at the bottom here, you will find links to the PDF either on the JSC website or the Redefine website, which gives you full results or full copies of the announcement, the long form, I suppose, announcement, and you'll find the details sitting there. And again, it's up in the company. Dave, yeah, LastPass, favorite, love it. Trying to get everyone in the world I know onto it. What I sort of make sure is that when I die, someone knows my LastPass password so they can get into everything, because typically I'm a 40-character password person. Although occasionally I find websites where your password's too long and I'm like, hey, what, really? That makes no sense whatsoever. Goes back to the point, and I've made this many times, is that there's a ton of information on the online share trading website, and that's why we're doing these Wednesdays. And I keep on thinking to myself, I'm going to run out of things to say, and then I take a quick gander down the menu, and suddenly there's a whole bunch more that's available. The point being is, I mean, you know, you're not going to necessarily be using all of it, and don't stress that. You know, it's the case of if you're in trouble. So if you're investing and you're looking for something and you're not sure and you scattered around, it's hard to find the stuff. But if I'm showing you things this morning and you're like, yeah, the corporate actions diary. I mean, truthfully, I don't know when last I downloaded that corporate actions diary. So that's cool. Of course, maybe you think that's the best thing you've seen all week. That's also cool. That's the purpose of what we're doing on these Wednesday sessions. Let's show you stuff. Let's get you smarter. Let's get you understanding what's happening and what's available. Importantly, on Friday, Satrix has announced an IPO for a China ETF. It will be the first China ETF on the JSE. We have had a China ETN from Deutsche Bank. They delisted it in January, but this will be the first pure China ETF coming through, and that's what I'm going to be touching on Friday. There is currently an IPO. I expect Online Share Trading will be opening it. Dave, stroke or brain injury? Yeah, that's also true. So Friday, we'll be talking about the new China ETF coming from Satrix. There is an IPO running. I think it runs until the 14th, so that's just under 2 weeks' time. If you're interested in China, if you're interested in ETFs, that will be what we will be doing this Friday. Otherwise, we'll park that there. Ladies and gents, our time is up. As always, the video will be available. I'll get it online shortly onto the YouTube channel. Head to YouTube, search Standard Online Share Trading. You will find it there, and you can grab this and all the other videos that we do. Ladies and gents, everyone have a good Wednesday further. Stay safe. Cheers all.